is Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
.3 Nigeria Info. Lovely morning to you, Lagos. In case you are just joining us, welcome. This is the Morning Crossfire. It comes our way Monday through Friday every week. I am Sheriff Quadry. You can listen to us online. NigeriaInfo.fm is our website. Go there and take us anywhere you go. You can also watch us live as we speak right now. You can watch us live, watch our beautiful, fantastic audio-visual studio on Facebook and YouTube. Nigeria Info 99.3. Search for that. Nigeria Info 99.3. And you'll be able to join us live. And guess what? You can also drop your comment on whatever it is that we want to talk about every day of the week. Even on weekends as well. You can drop your comments there because the video feed is there. So you just drop your comments in the comment section. So it's been a wonderful time with you today on the Morning Crossfire. Welcome back to the show on your number one news, talk and sports radio station, 99.3 Nigeria Info. As always, we have interesting conversations lined up. And today is no exception. Watch us live on Facebook. You can also join the conversation on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM is our handle on Twitter. Tell us what you think about the topic we're about to discuss with the hashtag Morning Crossfire. Hashtag Morning Crossfire. Please add that so we'll be able to take your comment. Nigeria's economic outlook in 2020. What is our economic outlook for the year? How is it looking for us as a people? Individually, what should we watch out for? What should we expect in the months to come? Don't worry. We intend to have these questions and others answered by our guests today on the show. You shouldn't miss any part of it. Please don't. Remember, you can also watch us live on YouTube. Meanwhile, the phone lines will be given out in a moment. In the meantime, you can save our WhatsApp line. The WhatsApp line is 0809 597 5805. That is 0809 597 5805 to drop your comments. Do well to check out our website later for news updates on today's conversation. Our guest on the show this morning, we have Mr. Muda Yusuf, Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Yusuf, good morning to you and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Sheriff.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Our business correspondent, Clementine Okonye, did a recent report on Nigeria's economy and prospects for the year. According to her, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria projects that there will be challenging times this year with government policies impacting negatively on the manufacturing sector. On the nation's economic growth, Clementine Okoye reports that the growth rate is expected to not go beyond 2%, whereas inflation will remain in double digits. Like MAN, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry predicts also that headline inflation will likely rise this year and will in fact be driven by the implementation of the new minimum wage and continued closure of the land borders, among others. Thank goodness we have Mr. Muda Yusuf on the line with us this morning on the conversation. We'll be able to shed light more on this. Now, on the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, our reporter says that as projected by the LCCI, Nigeria's participation in this area will have an effect on the trade sector. Meanwhile, there will be an improved credit flow to agriculture this year. Let's take a moment. Mr. Muda Yusuf, please stay on the line. Let's take a moment, listen to what Clementine Okoye did on the economic outlook for Nigeria in 2020. Let's take a listen.
The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria says challenging times lie ahead for the country in 2020. MAN Director General Shegun Quadry gave the warning, adding that government policies are likely to have a negative impact on the manufacturing sector in 2020. He, however, says government appears to be aware of the issues and are capable of tackling them. On September 11, 2019, the federal government, after a Federal Executive Council meeting, increased the chargeable rate of value-added tax by 50% effective this year. Quadry says the increase in VAT will compound the challenge of high level of unplanned inventories of manufactured goods and dampen the impact of the increase in minimum wage. The MAN DG predicts the nation's economic growth rate will not go beyond 2%, while inflation will remain in double digits. He added that the manufacturing sector may not show appreciable improvement amid an unchanged borrowing rate and deepening forex restrictions in the face of inadequate local supply of raw materials. Practitioners in the manufacturing sector say they want the federal government to focus on mitigating the supply side constraints that have continued to limit competitiveness in the sector. 2019 saw a boost in power supply, rehabilitation and construction of roads, particularly in industrial areas, and an immediate amelioration of the ports.
Government will necessarily have to focus on mitigating the supply side constraint that has continued to limit the competitiveness of Nigerian manufacturing industry. On this call, trade facilitation infrastructure has to come forward and attract adequate government attention. There has to be a major boost in power supply. We need to accelerate the repair of roads, particularly in the industrial area. And there has to be an immediate amelioration of the heavy state of our Lagos port.
Challenges the economy will face in 2020 include smuggling amid the closure of the nation's land borders. The border closure has, however, led to a slowdown in smuggling. Analysts have called for the use of modern technology as a means of checking illegal trade activities. On the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, Mr. Quadry urged government to ensure the identified gaps in the nation's economic ecosystem are expeditiously addressed.
As you're also aware, we are entering into the implementation stage of the AFCFTA in July 2020. So it behooves government to ensure that the identified gaps in our economic ecosystem are expeditiously addressed. Quite importantly, our trade negotiating mechanism will have to be strengthened to ensure that the Nigerian economy puts in good stead to be able to beneficially engage continental market. And lastly, government synergy key private sector operators should be deepened. This is both in consultations ahead of policy formulation and implementation.
On its part, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry has called for an improvement in infrastructure as well as a reduction of multiple levies and taxation. LCCI Director General Muda Yusuf says the performance of the trade sector in 2020 will be shaped by the direction of government policies. Yusuf says the manufacturing sector would continue to benefit from the CBN's aggressive credit push.
Our tax policy, for instance, we expect it to be more investment friendly, and the fact that we have an investment friendly tax regime does not mean that revenues will drop. It only means that we will have better compliance. The tax conditions are not too deep. We should also in 2020 look at our trade policy. The tariff regime we have is too high because quite a number of even production that we undertake require imported inputs. And to the extent that we have this high tariff regime, it has a way of impacting negatively on productive activities and the capacity of the private sector to create jobs. It also increases smuggling. It makes the job of the customs more difficult. So we need to have a holistic view of our tariff regime to ensure that it's something that is supportive of investment without necessarily compromising the revenue prospects that the country has.
He, however, predicted that competition between foreign and local producers would fade on the prolonged closure of the nation's land borders. The Director General predicts that headline inflation will rise in 2020 and it will be driven by the implementation of the new minimum wage and continued closure of the land border. Yusuf also said higher value-added tax at 7.5% and early disbursement of funds for budget implementation would also be contributory factors. He added that the level of Nigeria's engagement in the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, scheduled to kick off on the 1st of July, will affect the performance of the trade sector.
We need to improve on our infrastructure because infrastructure impacts on competitiveness of businesses. It affects profit margins. It affects the capacity of the economy to create jobs. It affects the competitiveness of the economy. And at a time when we are thinking of going continental under the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, if we don't fix infrastructure, our ability to benefit from that agreement will be jeopardized in a very big way. And what is likely to happen is that Nigeria will just be a destination for people to bring their products, rather than Nigeria being a location where you can produce and export to other African economies. So infrastructure is key. I know that the government has challenges with revenue, but we can come up with other creative ways of financing infrastructure.
On agriculture, the Director General projects improved credit flow to agriculture on the back of a proposed increase in the loan-to-deposit ratio of deposit money banks. Overall, the economy is expected to sustain its upward growth trajectory in 2020. This report was packaged by Clementine Okonye for the newsroom, Nigeria Info.
There you go, the report put together by Clementine Okoye of our newsroom. Mr. Muda Yusuf is still on the line with us. Mr. Muda, thank you for hanging on there. Let's begin by asking you that one of the major issues that we're facing right now, and one of the things that you said, is that the new minimum wage could actually worsen the inflation situation that we have got already. We have double digits. How does this affect the economic outlook for Nigeria in 2020? Double-digit inflation rate.
Yeah, the inflation generally is bad for an economy. It's bad first from the point of view of the effect it has on the purchasing power of citizens. Already, purchasing power is weak. So as inflation intensifies, it further weakens purchasing power, which means that it makes people poorer. So it has a major effect and impact on the welfare of citizens generally. Secondly, it has implications for operating and production costs. And when cost continues to rise, it has implications for business margins, prosperity, and sustainability.
Right.
Because it is not in all cases that businesses can pass on additional costs to their consumers. So to the extent that you cannot pass those costs have to be borne, absorbed by the investor or the producers, as the case.
How does it affect production then, or the entrepreneurship?
Of course, it will affect, because if you have such situations that your cost is increasing, you cannot increase your price because you cannot pass on the additional cost to your consumers. It affects the welfare or the prosperity of your business. It affects the return on investment.
Are we expecting that to happen in 2020?
Well, it is likely to be so, not only just because of the minimum wage.
Right.
But generally, the cost environment is quite intense. Because costs are increasing. You look at what it takes, for instance, to put things together, to produce. The operation cost is increasing by the day. Cost of energy, cost of transportation, then compliance costs. It's also increasing by the day. We have so many regulators around so many businesses. And each of these regulatory issues come with different kind of costs. Then you have, of course, the tax authority also around you and all of that. So compliance cost is also an issue. Operational cost is an issue. So all these costs actually create a lot of problems for business. Then if you go through the ports,
right,
the port is one of the biggest headaches that businesses are facing now, particularly those who are into production or importing things, machineries, raw materials, and so on.
Right.
This is a big headache. You know.
What exactly is in the port that is a big headache? What is happening at the ports that is a big headache?
Well, the issue first is the issue of valuation. You import something, it's costing you maybe X amount, say, for instance, $10,000. It gets to the customs. They tell you that the price is, the value is double that. And you begin to struggle with that. And if you don't resolve it on time, you could run into the problem of demo rates, interest payments, and all of that. All of these things put a lot of burden on businesses.
Right.
Then the time it takes for you to clear the cargo at the port, to get into the port, to get out of the port, then the different agencies that you encounter at the port, all these problems, it's a whole big headache that puts a lot of pressure on businesses. So when we talk about the economy, it's not just about the macroeconomic issues. It's also about all these investment climate issues.
Right.
Unfortunately, we are not making much progress in that space.
Well, recently, I get what you're saying, but recently there was a report that Nigeria has moved up in the ease of doing business ranking in the world, and you're saying that we're not making any progress. Is that a contradiction?
Well, you see, some of those parameters don't actually reflect the critical issues in the business environment, because when you talk about things like ease of business registration, construction permit,
right,
connecting to electricity and all of that. These are parameters that may matter maybe elsewhere. But when you talk about this environment, these big issues don't reflect in those parameters. For instance, connection to electricity is a good one example.
Right.
Say you connect easily to electricity. Okay, it's one thing for you to connect, it's another thing for you to get the electricity. Then it's ease of business registration. This is a one-off thing. You don't register business every day. But the things that you do on daily basis, you encounter these problems on daily basis. So that is why some of these World Bank parameters on ease of doing business is not exactly, it's not the kind of parameter you use for this kind of environment.
Right.
That is why some of us have argued that really you should actually customize those indicators so that you have country-specific indicators for measuring the quality of the business environment.
Let's quickly talk about, Mr. Mudaisu, let's talk about, our outlook, especially economically when it comes to oil. We know that that's the mainstay of our economy, the oil business. But looking at, because, you can't even determine it. We have no power as to whatever it is that happens to the oil prices locally here in Nigeria. It's determined by the global market. And as it currently stands right now, we know what's going on between the trade war between U.S. and China. We know what is happening between U.S. and Iran, which would possibly, deteriorate as the day goes by. How do you see this affecting our economy? Because largely our budget is pegged majorly on the oil prices we intend to sell, or the global market intends to sell oil prices for the year 2020. How would this event and happenings in the global space affect our projection, our economic outlook for the year 2020?
Well, it's both positive and negative. The positive aspect of it is that it will improve our inflow in terms of foreign exchange earnings. That is, if we assume that there is no disruption in our oil production.
Right.
So it is likely that it will impact positively on our inflow. It will impact on our forex liquidity. It will impact positively also on our reserves. And ultimately, you know how these things also rub off on economic growth and the rest of it. So to that extent, I think it's something that is positive. It's also positive to the extent that investors in the upstream oil and gas sector,
right,
the returns on investment will be much better if oil price increases. So for that sector, those investors in that space, that is very good. Indeed. But the flip side is that we are also a major importer of petroleum products. True
that.
So the cost of diesel, for instance, will go up because it's deregulated. So, a lot of businesses use diesel for their generator.
True.
All the trucks we use for logistics are running on diesel. So we are likely to see a very sharp increase in the cost of diesel, which means that the cost of production for businesses will also go up, which means that the cost of transportation, moving things on the road, because over 90% of freight domestically is moved by trucks on the road.
Right.
And these trucks are running on diesel. So you are likely to see additional costs, in that space. So, and of course, we have the likely inflationary pressure that will arise from it, because as the inflows in forex increases, the monetization of those proceeds in naira will also increase.
Right.
Because as these things come in, the central bank converts to naira, which means that the liquidity within the system will increase.
Right.
Then you now see false inflationary issues. You see the central bank responses, tightening liquidity and all of that, creating issues with interest rates and so on and so forth. So there are quite a number of negative implications that also come with this high oil price. But the biggest of it all is the fact that we still import heavily all this petroleum, including even aviation fuel,
right,
kerosene, all those things we import. So all these prices will go up, and nobody is going to get any compensation for that. So you're going to put a lot of pressure on a lot of businesses as well.
Right. Mr. Muda, let's release the phone lines and get people to contribute to our discussion before we let you go. Here are the phone lines if you'd like to be a part of our discussion this morning. After chatting with Mr. Muda Yusuf, the LCCI Executive Director, and then we'll go on a break. When we return after the break, we'll have the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria joining us via the telephone as well. Here are the numbers you can call if you'd like to chip in one or two words as regards what we're talking about this morning. Economic outlook for Nigeria. Got a question for our guests? Feel free to dial any of these lines.
Call us on 01-277-0993, 01-277-1993, 01-277-2993, and 01-277-3993. This is Nigeria Info. We are listening.
Yes, we are listening. Don't forget that your thoughts and comments can also be directed to our socials, Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp as well. You can tweet us at Nigeria Info FM on Twitter. We'll be able to get your thoughts in on Twitter. And, of course, our WhatsApp line is 009-597-5805. Let's get a thought or two in before we allow Mr. Muda to go back to the rest of his activities for the day. Hello, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
This
This is who?
This is Edward Balogun on Marina.
Oh, welcome, Balogun. Welcome. Go on. We're listening. That's Balogun's call. Balogun, do try and call us back if you can. We would appreciate that a whole lot. Please do that. Apparently, we have lost Mr. Muda Yusuf's call this morning. Let's see if we can get him back on the line, because I have a couple more questions to ask him on the program this morning. Hopefully, he will be able to rejoin us on the program this morning. I'm seeing a question for him on our social this morning, particularly on WhatsApp. Let's hope that he joins us again in a moment. Mr. Muda, thank you for rejoining us. Apologies, we lost you for a moment there. Let me quickly ask you this question, because we have to let you go now. What can be done differently this year to boost our economic outlook? I would want to know.
Well, a lot of the problems we have are actually structural. I'd like to see an acceleration of reforms in the oil and gas sector.
Okay.
So that the kind of burden that this importation of petroleum products is putting on this economy, we can get out of it. Because if we continue to spend the way we are spending on the importation of petroleum products, and with all the associated problems of subsidy, equalization fund, the corruption that comes with it, it's a huge burden on the economy. So if the president can expedite action on the petroleum industry bill, the new version that he wants to present, he can do that quickly and is given an expeditious consideration. I think that will go a long way. Then the regulatory institutions and policymakers should engage the stakeholders in the economy better. They cannot understand the economy better than those who are operating in the economy.
Right.
So in order to have quality policies that will work for the economy, that will work for investors, that will inspire confidence, there should be better engagement with stakeholders to deal with macro issues, to deal with sector-specific issues. That is the way to make sure that we build an economy that is inclusive.
Right.
So I think these are the things that are very critical.
Before I let you go, the finance bill, the president signed it into law yesterday. What's your take on this?
Well, there are some merits. There are also some concerns about it.
What are your concerns?
Well, the concerns is that the increase in VAT will put additional pressure on costs for businesses, because the cost environment here is high. It's high, particularly for those in production. It's very high. And when you are dealing in a market where you cannot transfer this cost to your consumers, then it's a whole lot of problem for those who are running business. And the way VAT works here, whether it is a finished product, whether it's intermediate products, you pay the VAT, even right from the ports. So it's additional pressure for those in business. But of course, we have these provisions for SMEs, consideration for SMEs,
right.
New threshold. Well, that is a plus for the bill. So we have some, it's a question of some positives and negatives in the bill.
Right. Mr. Amuda Yusuf, thank you so much for talking to us on the Morning Crossfire today. It's always a pleasure to have you around. Mr. Amuda Yusuf is the Executive Director, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He joins us right now. He joins us earlier on the show to talk about the economic outlook for the country. When we return after the break, we'll be having the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria's Director General, Quadry, on the program to talk about what this means for the manufacturing sector, talking about the finance bill and his own outlook, especially again, for the manufacturing sector in the year 2020. I am Sheriff Quadry. Join us again after this short break.
More talk, news and sports after this.
Welcome back to your number one talk, news, and sports station. This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria
Info. This is Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. A very lovely morning to you, Nigeria. If you are just joining us, you're welcome. We're looking at the economic outlook for the country in the year 2020. We've been speaking with experts on what you should expect as a citizen. What is the economy? What's the language of the economy as a citizen to you in the year 2020? What you should do, what you should know about the economy, how you should plan. as a citizen of Nigeria for the year 2020? Earlier, before the break, we spoke with Mr. Muda Yusuf, the Executive Director of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and he told us what he felt, what he thought, his expert opinion as to the things that could affect the economy in 2020 and what we should do if we want to avert the negative consequences of policy shifts in the year 2020. We have on the line right now the Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Quadry. He joins us via the telephone. Mr. Segun, good morning to you.
Good morning, and how are you today?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you for speaking with us. Let me begin this way. The President signed the finance bill into law yesterday. How does it affect the manufacturing industry, in particular?
Well, okay. Essentially, the finance bill should have been a welcome development in the sense that it has streamlined and harmonized the tax laws of the country. So it's easier for you to pick a document and understand the basic tax obligations that you have as a corporate or an individual citizen. However, there are some aspects of it that are worrisome, and that is the one that has to do with the increase in VAT. The deep concern that we have, especially as manufacturers, is the fact that you are going to eventually make our product more expensive for the ordinary citizen to buy. And there wouldn't have been a problem, save for the timing. As we speak, our warehouses are filled with unsold stock. So the manufacturer, what is your job is not to produce alone. The more important job you have is to sell.
Right.
Because if you do not sell, you now have to invest in warehouses where you will keep your goods, and you start incurring costs that you didn't plan.
Right.
So we are of the opinion, and we had expressed it when the bill was being considered in the National Assembly up until when it was sent for President's assent. And now that it's been assented to, we think that it is a negative development.
Mr. Quadry, sorry to butt in. Nigeria's VAT is currently 7.5%.
Yeah.
In Ghana, it's about 15%. In South Africa, 15%. It's even as high as 18% in some other African countries. Why should we have... right now, we have one of the lowest in the world, not just on the African continent alone, one of the lowest in the world. And you're still saying that it will impact negatively on production. How is this so exactly?
My dear brother, it is. I've had this argument quite often. And what worries me is the fact that since when has it become a bad thing for you to make life more comfortable for your people? You see, when you have a lower VAT, it means you leave more money in the pocket of your people. And once you single out an issue like this and discuss it, it buries a lot of facts. What is the power situation in Ghana? What is the general cost of living? What are the other taxes that the manufacturers pay? How long does it take you to comply with government regulations? What is the cost? What is the state of the port, and so on and so forth? And you see, when you talk about the rate of the tax to the manufacturer,
right,
it's not just this 7.5% you see. I will take a very simple example so that our listeners will understand very well. If I'm making a product and you are taxing the input, you have charged 7.5% on this, 7.5% of that, 7.5% on that, and you assume that it is only the 7.5% in the final product that I'm paying as VAT. It's like an ostrich that buries his head in the sand and thinks it's covered. Essentially, what we are saying is that it is better for you to put the money, leave the money in people's pockets, and that the timing is wrong. You have just, for instance, increased, I hope it is indeed increased, the salary,
the minimum wage, right.
So what we have done is to take the money back. If I'm going to pay more than I paid last year for a given product,
right,
the increase you have given me, you are just taking it back. And if we drill down deeper, you will see that 85% of this VAT is said to be going to the states and the local government. You and I know that that is the area where you have the least accountability. So what is the value proposition for the average taxpayer? That is the issue. And if you want to reflect the economy, you do not do it by constraining consumption. If you have to pay more, you will buy less. So for me, as a manufacturer, it is a bad day.
Right. Let's talk about what exactly the other reasons why you feel that it's a bad day. I mean, finance bill, and to be specific, VAT increase is just one aspect. In the reports we did earlier, you said that government policies will negatively impact the manufacturing sector, especially this year, 2020, and you just mentioned the finance bill. Are there other policies that could impact the manufacturing sector negatively in 2020, in your opinion?
Yeah, we look forward. We are positive because we engage government effectively. I think I expressed myself strongly about VAT because I really feel we shouldn't have gone down that road. But there are other things that government has done, for instance, that are quite commendable, and we look forward to. We look forward, for instance, to an effective implementation of the plan on infrastructure improvement, because the single most important challenge that manufacturers have now is the state of our infrastructure.
Right.
It will take you up to 900,000 or 1 million to take a 40-foot container from from port to Agbara. It used to be 150. It can also take you 2 weeks. It's cheaper for you to take that same container from here to Singapore than to take it from here to Maiduguri. If I'm to produce and compete with imported products, I would need to have an environment that is conducive for my business.
Right.
So what we are looking forward to in 2020 is a situation where those supply-side constraints that limit our competitiveness are removed. You talk of infrastructure that I've spoken about. Only recently, Nigerians were dazed with the reported increase in electricity bill.
Right.
This is the power that you don't get, and you are having to pay more for it. There is no evidence, to my knowledge. There's nothing that suggests that there will be improvement in supply. We also have the issue of the roads. You are very conversant with it.
Right.
Even though it's been said that the roads are not as bad. I know the roads that I travel, and they are bad. So I think it is not good for business. We need to concentrate on removing those constraints.
Let's talk about the AFCFTA. It's kicking off July. Are we ready, Mr. Quadry?
Well, AFCFTA is a very delicate issue in the sense that it doesn't involve only Nigeria. It has to do with a continental market. And your readiness is what you yourself can enable. It is something you can activate.
Right.
Man has done a study, the federal government has done a study, and we know exactly what to do for us to be ready and to beneficially participate. So it depends on if government does what it should do. But if you ask me whether we are in terms of our competitiveness, and in terms of the supply side constraints that we have a lot of work to do before we can benefit from AFCFTA. Ordinarily, it is a good thing. It opens up a 1.2 billion market for us to explore.
Right.
It allows us to very easily interact among ourselves. We can easily move investment. Labor can move. Non-barrier and non-tariff barriers can be removed. It will be a very good day if we get our acts right. But what is critically important is that we should not just look at the opportunity. We must see how we should take it.
It's sounding like you're trying to say that we are not ready. Because the good roads are still not there, power is still not there, storage is still not there. Talk about infrastructure generally. They're still not there, and all of these things will aid the manufacturing sector most especially to be able to, produce and manufacture things at competitive rates to others that will be coming into Nigeria, whether we want to, whether we like it or not. These goods will come in, come July, because at that point we'll go into the implementation stage of the AFCFTA. Let's assume that we're not ready at that time. How will this affect the sector called the manufacturing sector?
I'm scared as to what will happen because there will be a surge. You have already analyzed it quite rightly. There will be a surge of imports, and the Nigerian manufacturer will not be able to compete competitively. And the average buyer will not buy because you are his brother. He will buy because he has the disposable income to dispense. So we will not be able to sell. God forbid, we will have to reduce our capacity utilization. We'll have to lay off workers. And we have to suffer setbacks in our industrial development as a country. I mean, that's the negative one, and I'm sure that government is aware. We are managed on the action committee on AFCFTA, where we are supposed to address these burning issues. We have put it squarely on the table. Government is aware. The president himself said it. So I'll be shocked if we do not do anything about it.
Do you see anything being done about it, Mr. Quadry? Do you see anything? I mean, I will be shocked as well that we are not going to do anything, or if we don't do anything about it, at the end of the day. But can we all see? Do you see? Can you see anything being done about it?
Yes, we are told that everything will be done, and I know that government can do it. That's the challenge that I have. I don't want to assume that they won't do it, because it can be done. Other countries are doing it. Rwanda, Egypt, Morocco, everybody is doing it. We can do it, but I've not seen it done. And I don't think we can do it. Nigerians should not allow us not to do it. We should do it because we are the biggest economy.
True.
I don't want us to be big for nothing. It's not rocket science. It can be done. We just need to have the political will and the focus to be able to understand that trade is war. And you need to fight it with all you have.
True. Let's talk about in the event that these things are being put in place. I mean, the roads suddenly just come alive. They're good. They're moachable. Suddenly we have farm produce being easily moved from farm, to the processing plants. Suddenly we have stable power supply, especially to the industrial layouts and parks across the country. Manufacturing is up north. What are the benefits of all of these in terms of AFCFTA?
So I think it will be a fantastic thing. You can imagine if you have been selling to 200 million people, you now suddenly have in front of you 1.2 billion people with more than $4 trillion GDP. It is yours for the taking. And there are so many countries in Africa that all the industries they have are not more than the ones we have on Obakran, in Kenya. So you can literally trod on those countries with your product. And so it's going to be a good, and we will also be able to have economies of scale across Africa, which means that you can easily source your raw materials, have semi-processed goods in one country, have the raw material in another one, and do the manufacturing elsewhere. So we can all benefit from our areas of specialty and area of comparative advantage. It will be not only a good thing for Nigeria, it will be a good thing for Africa. For once, we'll be able to move away from our perception as a poor country, a poor continent that are daily exporting its best brains and people dying on the high seas, the negative things about poverty, disease, and so on. We can begin to network, to work with each other, to be able to allow our wealth to remain in the continent.
Right.
And Nigeria being in the forefront, I'll be very proud on that day if this happens.
Let's release the phone lines and see what Nigerians have got to say as regards their expectations for the economy in 2020. Mr. Shegun Quadry, please stay on the line. Let's speak to Nigerians in a bit. Here are the numbers you can call if you'd like to join our conversation on the outlook for the economy in 2020.
Call us on 01-277-0993, 01-277-1993, 01-277-2993, and 01-277-3993. This is Nigeria Info. We are listening.
Absolutely. We are listening on Nigeria Info. Let's take a few thoughts on Twitter. Let's go to Twitter first. Your name is Jamil on Twitter, and it says the federal government will be sincere and transparent in spending those funds. The increase will create more development to the nation. I'm sure you're referring to the VAT increase. Sincerity and, of course, accountability. That's what Jamil is saying on Twitter. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Quadry.
Good morning to you.
My name is Adewuni, and good morning to the man,
Mr. Quadry.
Mr. Quadry. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes. I agree completely with Mr. Quadry. I think we're going to have an issue, especially with production. If there is no demand, or the demand drops, then you are going to have stocks, with 7.5% increase. I think this was argued before, and I'm surprised and disappointed that the National Assembly did not take this into account before agreeing to that increase. We are not South Africa. We're not Ghana. We have different, factors. The second thing I want to say is that it is ridiculous to be talking about SIN number. The person in Daura or in Kaduna or in Sokoto who wants to go to the bank to save will now go and register SIN number. What kind of thing is that? SIN number is basically for those who are in business. If you are in business, you cannot even get a contract if you do not have SIN number.
Right.
But to begin to insist that those who are doing ordinary banking, because Nigeria is still yet on the bank,
right,
and yet we are still trying to suppress, those. People will no longer take their money to the bank, and then we are going to have a lot of difficulty with raising funds for development.
Right.
I think these things should be thought out very seriously, and the National Assembly should come on board and correct things, and not just be steamrolled into taking this. God bless Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you for talking to me. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning, Sheriff.
Yes, good morning to you.
Jonathan, I've been listening all along. This VAT, I know the section of that VAT is not on all commodities. I don't know whether you are enlightening.
Yes, go on, please.
I've been listening all along. But I know that most of the consumables of Nigerians on a day-to-day basis are exempted. I stand to be corrected. Most of it, I know there was a time you held that talk on your platform. I think shoes are involved, bags are involved.
Right.
Yes, but
what Mr. Quadry said is that clearing those things, even if you're importing those things, clearing them takes time. And it makes you accrue more additional costs to your production or importation costs.
For me, in the first place, I always had this bad omen about me importing almost everything. But I think what the government is even trying to do is encourage them to even look inward. That is what they have been trying to, and I really support them on that. And for me, that is the really economic activity that will break this country. If we keep on importing everything, creating economic activity for other countries, we are just making them wealthy.
Okay.
We are making ourselves poorer.
All
That's why I look at it.
Thank you, Jonathan, for talking to me. Always a pleasure. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning, Chief Quadry.
Yes, welcome to Nigeria Info. Who am I speaking with?
My name is Tunji.
Tunji, where are you calling me from?
I'm calling from Isola.
Tunji, go on, please.
Oh, I'm a local manufacturer. And I'm a member of the manufacturer.
Can you turn down the volume of your radio? It's quite disturbing here, the sound we're getting.
Unfortunately, I'm using an hands-free.
Oh, wow. Just go on, Tunji, go on.
I'm a member of the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, which is an associate of man.
Okay.
One of the things government are not getting right is that they are setting up really against the importers. Because anything you produce in this country there is water. And every other thing that can make us well, we match it every day. And government has not provided any security to make it work well.
Sergey, I really, really want to talk to you, but it's quite noisy. The connection. If you can call me back, let's try again, all right? Do call me back. Hello, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
My name is Olumuyiwa, calling from Aja.
Go on, please.
I was born in the 70s.
Okay.
In the late 80s, not early 80s, so when Nigeria Airlines was flying all over the world, Dubai then was in the desert. But some people come and say, let me Dubai the pride of Africa, and that's what we are seeing today.
Not Africa.
So what now happened to Nigeria, where we have so many industrial estates, so many policy kill them, they are still making more effort to destroy the remaining ones. So the problem we are having are the people that are ruling us.
Right.
I don't know what to say, but I'm angry. In conclusion, I have come to discover that Nigeria is an extraordinary people, but governed by ordinary people. Good morning.
Good morning, Wiwa. Let's quickly take a message from WhatsApp. This person says, look at what Mr. Yusuf's projection about inflation and economy is. Nigeria is in one chance with all these politicians in government because they are a failed personnel in the public office. And neither House or Rep or Senate realistic to this fact of this man accept cash or accept cash cow initiative in their pocket. Can we have Mr. Finance or Ministry of Finance, or anyone in government to come on phone as well one day to face Mr. Yusuf on phone and tell the whole Nigeria how they have detached themselves from realities of Nigerians and their administration. Alaide Cruz, thank you for sending in that message. Appreciate it a lot. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mr. Quadry. How are you?
I'm doing good. Who am I speaking with?
This is BOA from Yaba.
Good to have you.
Thank you. I just want to say a few things. First thing is we obviously have so much in terms of mineral, natural resources and things that foreigners come here to take advantage of us.
Right.
So as long as we're not unified, we're not going to get anywhere. Number two, if we look at Rwanda, they had, what's it called? I can't think. They had problems. I can't think of their problems right now.
They have their crisis
there. Thank you. The crisis there.
Right.
And look at them now. We didn't even have the crisis they had, and we cannot get our act together. So as long we keep talking every day about problems, but we don't do anything. So we can't keep doing the same thing and expect the different results. It's not going to happen.
I agree with
so
you.
I pray we get our acts together one day.
I hope so too.
Thank you for
Thank you, BOA, for calling. Hello, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Quadry.
Good morning.
This is Mr. Vincent from Apapa.
This is who?
Mr. Vincent from Apapa.
Good to have you, Mr. Vincent. Good to have you.
You know what? We have so many fundamental issues. All the government has been doing, and all the successive governments before now, they are all shying away from the whole thing. They are just crashing. They are going to the secondary, and it is to all be hanging on the air. If we should go to that fundamental before primary, one, that fundamental is this: there must be national cohesion. As it stands now, everybody just doing eye service to any incumbent, and the incumbent will just continue like that.
Right.
After that fundamental national cohesion, then you go to dismembering most of the obstacles. The obstacles are this: you cannot have over 50-something or 60-something exclusive, something on exclusive list, like poor and whatever. You dismember them. There are so many structural effects. If all these things, they are all laudable projects, both this 7.5 and whatever.
Right.
They will all be hanging on the balance because the house, the structure, the house, the Nigeria itself house is in comatose. So we are not making any headway until we get a leader that will go down and start the foundation.
Okay.
That foundation is cracking.
All right. Thank you so much for calling. I'll take another comment on WhatsApp. All the increments already signed. All I think we should ask government is what they would erect with all these monies and within a reasonable period of time so we can trace their achievement. Let's trust them for a while. morning to you. Dekunle is asking for us to at least trust them for a while. Let's give them some time. That's what Dekunle is saying on our WhatsApp portal. Quickly now, I'm crossing over to Twitter. Murtaza Miki Yusuf says Nigeria's economy is in bad shape. We shut our borders so that farmers can produce so much for local consumption. But a very recent World Food Program, WFP, revealed that Nigerians are now living in extreme hunger because food is still expensive. Murtaza Miki Yusuf, thank you for that message. Joy Forever on Twitter says Nigeria is an enterprise to make money for few. God bless us all. Thank you, Joy Forever, for your comment. Appreciate it a lot. I have to go now. I can't take any more calls. My phone lines are buzzing, but I really must go. Many thanks to our guest this morning on the show, Mr. Muda Yusuf, Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He joined us earlier in the first part of the show, and during the second part, we lost his call a few moments ago. Mr. Shegun Quadry, the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, he joined us as well earlier on the show. Many thanks to everybody that called in. If you tried calling, I didn't pick your call. I actually wanted to pick, but it's just for want of time. But not to worry, we have another moment to engage with each other. Tomorrow at 6 a.m., that's when the show starts. 6 a.m. every weekday, Monday through Friday. You can follow me online. Nigeria Info is the handle of Nigeria. That's Nigeria Info FM on Twitter. On Facebook and YouTube is Nigeria Info 99.3. Always follow us. On Instagram, we are Nigeria Info FM Lagos. But personally, you can follow me on all socials across platforms. Sheriff Quadry is my handle. Many thanks to the team. Zainab Yakin, Yvonne Ohaifo, and Tosin Akinride. Babatunde Abdusalam. Make sure you could see me online, live on Facebook and YouTube. I'll be back at 6 tomorrow morning. When we're done with the commercials right now, news headlines will take center stage. Tunji Andrews will follow through afterward with business, money, business, and economy show. Do you have yourself a fantastic day? Stay here on the nation's #1 news, talk, and sports radio, 99.3 Nigeria Info.
More news and information coming up. We'll be back in a moment.